What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Brand Doctor live stream. Today, we're going to be talking about content creation. And one of the big problems that a lot of my clients face is they're putting out a lot of content, but nothing is really making the impact. Maybe some content's hitting, some other content is destroying their brand or it's not as powerful. And I want to talk to you about how to correct that, and specifically having your clients help you correct this, because a lot of the questions that we ask are 9 times out of 10 right underneath our nose, but we're not focused on that because it's so, uh, you may even say it's common sense. It's right there, duh, right? But that's the aha moment that moves the needle for all of this.
Yeah.
So what's going on, Awais?
How are
Happy
you, Henry?
Monday.
Happy Monday, man.
Look,
Or,
I'm excited to have this conversation
yeah, me
because
too.
I feel like we all struggle with this. We all are trying to figure out what content should we be putting out and what content doesn't need any attention whatsoever. What are some of the things that you've worked on in your content? Because I know you're big over there on LinkedIn. So,
Yeah.
what are some of the things that has helped you put out content that has really helped it push the brand awareness needle?
Yeah. My philosophy has always been leverage your most recent conversations with
Mm,
either your clients or your prospects.
mm,
Start there because that's where you're going to be able to extract, again, all the stuff that we talk about their challenges,
mm,
about what they want, what are their what are their desired outcomes.
mm,
Start from those conversations, and so what's helped me, Henry, and even many of my clients, is keeping a daily log of those conversations.
mm.
These are the things that they're struggling with. What'll happen is, when you talk about data driven decisions, that immediately their mind goes towards numbers.
Yeah.
What about this data? What about these conversations? That is data. And
Yeah.
so, I go back to that, what I found really when I became even more targeted towards that in the past year is clients that are now beginning to move forward with me will tell me, your content really resonated with me. And I'm like, oh, really?
Did you ever ask why?
It really spoke to me.
Mm,
I felt like you get it, right? And so I get it because I was listening. I was listening intently when we had our conversations, and I very strategically went back and uh, just answered those questions, because if we're on a, let's say, a 60-minute or a 30-minute call, perhaps not every single idea has been given, and really I want to give that 30 or 60 minutes to my client.
mhm.
That doesn't need to be my monologue,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
So I'm taking it all in, I'm absorbing it, and essentially clarifying my thoughts around some of the concerns that this client has expressed to me. Then I go back and say, okay, look, you know what? I'm going to respond to this client now, or I'm going to respond to several of these clients now where I'm noticing that there's a pattern. So now when you have essentially created this sort of a discipline of documenting your conversations with your clients, identifying what those shared challenges are,
Mhm.
now you can actually go back and say, you know what, I can speak on this. So that's essentially what I did. Then continue to refine that over and over again. There's a lot of different tools on LinkedIn, even at the most basic free level,
Mhm.
where now I can say, okay, you know what, these are the companies that are watching me, or these are the hashtags that I'm going to use to really target the decision maker that I'm wanting to attract, right?
Mhm.
So I will tell you, it shows me, it doesn't have to show me who specifically is looking at my content, but it will show me, at the very least, at least from my personal LinkedIn account, which company they belong to.
Hmm.
And sometimes I will know who that is.
Oh, right.
You
That's
see what I'm
enough
saying?
evidence for
That's
you.
enough. Yeah, exactly. And that tells me that that person is reading my content.
Mhm,
Then I know, focus on that a little bit more.
mhm.
Lean into it a little bit more, and it just slowly continues to help them gravitate towards you.
Mm. Yeah, that's good. And,
That's been my strategy. Now,
it go ahead. No,
well,
continue.
and look, so the big point here is to create familiarity.
Mhm,
I talked about this earlier today. It's like, if your business, or if you are obscure in the marketplace, your competitors will essentially gain the upper hand,
mhm.
right? And so you have to create this sort of a top of mind awareness, and create this sort of feeling of safety for your clients, for your ideal customers,
Mhm.
so that they're more apt to select you over your competitors. And
Yeah.
you do that by speaking to exactly what their challenges are.
Yeah, a question that I ask myself before I put any sort of content out there is, what do I want my clients to walk away? What do I want my audience to walk away from or walk away with after they watch this video? And in this particular video today, I want you guys to walk away with some ideas that are going to help you create better content that's going to attract a better client, right? So the only way I could do this is through case study, through sharing with you uh, some things that I've worked with clients on to help them understand what's going to drive people from watching a video to actually pulling out their credit card and paying you for your services.
Yeah.
And it's not what you may think it is. There's a lot of content creators out there that all sound the same. They all look the same. They're all putting out the same information. It's just all about who's putting it out first, second, third, right? But it's all the same stuff. And you don't want to get caught in that tornado, because then you're just another Me Too content creator
Yeah,
that's putting out the same stuff over and over and over again.
that's right.
That's why stories are so important. I'll give you a funny story. And again, if you guys are reading between the lines, you're going to pick up on what I'm trying to get you to pick up off of this video. Um, there were some interesting chain of events that happened with one of the companies that I am being coached by. And there was a change in guard, and the person that I was working with no longer is doing what they're doing. So I got pushed to somebody else. And I was open to it. I said, I at least want to meet this person and see if I could vibe and get the same vibe that I got from the initial person, because I found a lot of value in the conversations, and it helped me quite a bit. So I get on the touch base call, the introductory call, and this person went on for 18 minutes. I clocked it because I wanted to talk about it on today's show. They went on for 18 minutes straight. They didn't ask me one question about myself. I got the vibe that they were maybe on a medication, or they over medicated that particular moment, because it the frequency was very strange. Um, and so I entertained the conversation for 18 minutes and finally said, okay, I think it's time for me to go. So I politely excused myself from the conversation, and I went to the person that made that conversation happen. And I said, absolutely not. That conversation just went terribly. And I'm not interested in working with this particular person. That's a horrible experience. And I probably will never do business with that business again, because of there's an issue up there in leadership. And I want to work with a company that's doing really well, that has strong leadership, because that's what I want for my business. So I'm not interested in that. So I'm out. Right. But here's what that experience taught me. One, it gave me a story to tell you guys. So whether you're a coach or consultant, um, it's horrible if you're the one doing all the talking on the conversation. That's one, and not asking any questions. But two, it made me create a conversation and an experience that I'm sure one of you that are watching this will say, I've been on that same call in the past. And boy, does it suck. Instant connection. To your point, familiarity, right?
Absolutely.
You're like, you get me because you've gone through it. So that's what the content needs to be revolving around. So in the client that I talked about earlier, I mentioned that they were struggling with their content's intention. Some of the content was hitting, some of the content wasn't. So what we did was we took a look at what type of content was hitting. And the content that was hitting was they ask, you answer. There's a great book out there by Marcus Sheridan. They ask, you answer. And basically, all the content that was answering a question, a specific question, was the content that was getting the most love. So why aren't we doing more of that content? Well, do we know what kind of questions are being asked? No. Well, then that's your responsibility as a brand to get those questions.
Yeah.
That goes back to brand strategy. How are we gathering that information so that we could create the pillars of content that are needed to win? Because if you just have one pillar on just answering questions, it's very one-dimensional. People like to see a 360 view. I don't know about you, but I want to see a 360 view. You can have all the answers, but you could be a complete douchebag in real life, and that's it for me. I'm done. I don't want to do business with you. I'd rather find that out before I pay you than after I pay you. Right? So
That's right.
Creating content that's going to make you a more well-rounded individual or business is key.
Yeah. One thing to add to that, when you said that you need to have a system, right? So are you regularly asking questions or even telling your audience, what questions do you have?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A routine, it needs to become a routine practice.
Mm-hmm.
So I leaned into that a little bit. I'll be honest, I don't do that as often either.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good to listen to what your audience are saying, right? Your comment section is has a great deal of information.
Mm-hmm. I'm constantly listening to live. I'm watching other live streams. I'm listening to audio connections like Clubhouse used to be a real popular one. But now they're on Twitter. There's Twitter Spaces. LinkedIn has an audio feature now
Yeah.
that is getting rolled out in beta, right? So I'm constantly logging into these forums, if you will, and listening to the questions that are being asked. I'm actually going to New York City tomorrow. I got invited to another one of those speakeasies from David. Steve Sims. I'm going to. I love Steve Sims. I'm going to reconnect with him, but I'm also going to listen. I'm going to listen in on the questions that are going to be coming out of that audience, because that's real information. That's real powerful information for me. And I'm going to walk home. I'm going to take home a multi-page notebook full of questions that I could turn into podcasts, that I could turn into videos, that I could turn into, I don't do a lot of blogs, but maybe email content, things like that. Right. So I want to go back to the case study that I was talking to earlier about. Here's a client putting out good content. Some's hitting, some's missing. So after I gathered enough information and analytics, I found the funnel. I found what content needs to be put out in order for them to get people to buy. Okay. So there's top of the funnel content. Those are your how-to videos. Those are your behind the scenes. Those are answering FAQs. Those are addressing objections. Those are the problem solution types of content where, for example, there was a problem that presented itself and my client in a video 4 minutes long showcased the solution to that problem in 4 minutes. Very clean, very straight to the point. They published it. It was 400 plus views in less than 24 hours, things like that, right? So that's your top of the funnel stuff. But how do you get them down into a buying mood, right? Or a buying action. So with this particular client, they're in the services industry. They are definitely on the premium end of that service industry. So what do they need to be putting out first, second, and third? So what we realized was the how-to videos were very, very popular. People wanted to know how to do things, but they didn't necessarily want to do them themselves, right? Maybe they were just researching to get a better understanding. So when they go hire somebody, they don't sound like an idiot. But that seemed to do really, really well. So what I told them was, okay, let's start to do some more how-to videos, but let's work that in and that video lead into a behind the scenes video or a short, right? So you take a little bit of that how-to and you create a short out of it. And then that short leads them to another video, which is the actual project reveal, right? The project reveal of the entire project from where that little question came from, right? And in that big project reveal video, that's when you tell them what to do next, i.e., let's have a conversation. I see Chris Ross as a comment here. One obvious thing that separates the real from the imposters is that they pour into others rather than sell others. You'll always win with your content if your content is based upon quantitative value. By the way, good to see you, Henry. You've been a while. Yeah, Chris, I haven't seen you in ages, man. I hope you're doing well. Great get, by the way. Hands down. You know, if it's audience focused, fantastic. You know, but how do they know how to do these how-to videos if they don't understand who they're serving? How do they know how to put all this together if they don't know who they're serving? And luckily, this client has put a ton of effort into research on client avatar. So they really know their audience inside and out. It's important that you know that. And I think a lot of people just jump to the content creation part because there's Gary V's out there that just says, just hit record, just record your entire life and people will get it. No, it's not that easy. I'm sorry, dude. I'm all about you getting over the fear by just getting out there and doing what you need to do and getting those reps in. But if you're doing them without the proper plan, that's a waste of time, in my opinion.
Yeah. Here's a common phrase: targeted content.
Mm-hmm.
Who is it targeted towards?
Mm-hmm.
Just don't go out there and just create generalized statements or create generalized posts, hoping that it's going to connect.
Mm-hmm. Your clients are going to tell you, by the questions that they ask, by the war stories that they share. It's all right there.
Absolutely.
Spend more time listening to them. I'll give you another example. Did a podcast recording with an amazing entrepreneur this morning. It'll publish in June. That's how far out we are. But at the end of every podcast guest recording, I asked them this question. It's what's one big business challenge that you're working through this year? Why do I ask that question? Why do I even care?
That's useful content for you.
Yes. Yes. And in this particular business owner, her response was letting go. I have a hard time letting go. I have a hard time delegating. For whatever reason, we didn't dive into why, but that just gave me so much juice. That answer gave me so much juice. How many other people are watching this right now saying to themselves, man, if I would have just built my team that much sooner, if I didn't micromanage that project, if I just trusted who I hired and hire who I trusted, how different would my life be?
Yeah.
See what I just did there? That's what you should be doing for your business. And that's what's going to help you put together the content that really resonates. I could tell you this, some of my best content, and Oasis and I were talking about this on one of his coaching calls last week. One of the best pieces of content I will ever create in my life is when I hone in, it sounds a little wonky, or woo-woo, I should say, or whatever you want to call it, but close my eyes and I think of a person that I want to speak to. And I just focus on them. And I create one big idea, not 5, not 3, not 2, but one big idea that's glaring from that particular individual. And I create the whole piece of content around that one person. That person being a client, of course, not some rando, but that one client. Maybe I wish I said that to them sooner. Maybe I will say that to them in the future, whatever I'm about to say in the video. But I focus just on them and I just speak to them. Those pieces of content go through the roof. Why do you think that is?
Relatable.
What else?
I think it goes back to the fact that now you have completely focused your entire energy, right? Like you talk a lot about frequency, but you have focused your entire frequency towards making sure that they're able to gain a better perspective, right? Something that you perhaps weren't able to respond to, and then like I said earlier about me as well, I want to give them that moment to air out whatever their frustrations might be.
Yeah.
And then go back at a later time when it's my time to talk.
Yeah.
And that's through my content. That's through your content. When it's your time to talk, then you can essentially express your responses.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe you had a one-liner or two-liner response during your conversation, but now you can expand your thoughts on that.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's just a matter of putting yourself out there more and asking more questions and being more interesting, or I should say more interested versus being more interesting. I think that's where we mess up. And man, I get the t-shirt for that one. You know, always having to speak up, always having to have the last word, always being the one that's contributing. No, there's so much value. Well, there's a time and place for that, but there's also a tremendous amount of what's the word? There's a tremendous amount of insight you can learn, wisdom you can learn when you sit and listen and you ask more questions. Like that is powerful. That's why, like, when people book assessments with me, they have to fill out a questionnaire. And there's a lot of information that I get from the answers to those questions that inform the conversation that I'm about to have with them once I get in on the Zoom with them, right? Like, I know right then and there what their deepest pain point is and how to address the call. Right. I don't go into any of those types of assessment calls without some sort of background information. And then what I do is I have so many assessment questionnaires from the past. I go in, I look at the clients that moved forward into the Brand Accelerator program, and I study their questionnaire. I focus on what they were struggling with the most, and I do a piece of content on that. And that drives more assessments. that gets the Stripe notifications coming in.
There you go. You know, I want to offer an additional perspective on this because people are thinking, okay, well, I'm going to create content to sell my offer, right? And Chris, I think it was Chris that said earlier, that's just go beyond your offer, right?
Mm-hmm.
It really is about helping the people. So think about your content as a product.
Mm-hmm.
Think about your content as a product itself, as an offering itself. And so do you want to be putting out quality product out there, or do you want to be putting out something that's just generic?
Yeah.
And that's not offering any value.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there have been streaming services in the past month and a half that have been in the news for failure, and it goes back to the same thing. Did they do enough customer research? Did they listen to their customers enough to be able to create the content that is their product?
Yeah.
That would enable them to succeed and allow for them to be adopted in the marketplace, to be adopted by their customers.
Mm-hmm.
And what they found is no, they did not do the due diligence.
Mm-hmm.
So again, go back and really consider the content that you're producing is not only to help you sell what your core offering is, but also start perceiving and to start looking at that content as part of your product. Think of yourself as a media company.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right, here's a question. What are some ways of developing content? To Henry's point, not talking to people, rather talking at them. I'm curious because it doesn't help when I zone in on talking to one prospective buyer.
So, I struggled with this on a for a very long time. Like talking at people is something that I actually try to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
I think that conveys a matter of, and not a good authority, but it almost conveys a perception that the audience is somehow lower or inferior to the person that's coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And really, again, when you're wanting to come in and really help the audience, and particularly your target customers, come with you along with the journey.
Mm-hmm.
I think empowering them, inspiring them, those should be the goals. So
Yeah.
talking at them, I think, is counterintuitive.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing. I think when you're developing content, you have to look at your existing client roster. Okay, Chris is elaborating. Example, I try to speak through them to whom they know is my point. I'm a
Still a
little
little unclear.
Yeah, I'm a little unclear on that. Here's what I try to do. Let me try to break this down. I look at my favorite client list. I look at my client roster, and I look at my favorite clients. And a lot of them over the past couple of years have all been my favorites because over the past couple of years, I've worked with some incredible people. Okay. And each one of them has their own set of struggles and challenges. But the one big common denominator is what I'm doing now isn't going to help me get to where I want to go. That's why I want to reinvent. That's why I want to rebrand. That's why I got to take things up another notch. That's why I need help. So what I do is I look at those individuals and I look at the problems that they were struggling with, and I pull different aspects of their problems and I talk about them through my point of view. That's what makes my content so different from everybody else's, because I'm not telling you 5 ways to get more views on iTunes. No, that's you could go Google that information. What you can't Google is me telling a personal story of how I was able to get more views to my podcast. Me personally. Right? And what went into that strategy. You're not getting that on Google.
And when you share that story, or even when you share your personal client stories, what I pick up on is there are specific emotional words that are tied to your phrases. Mm-hmm. And that's big. Mm-hmm. That is, again, that's what helps people resonate with your stories.
Mm-hmm. What did I say to you before we went live on this one today? I said to you, at the end of this video, I want people to say to themselves, I went through the same thing. I had the same question. I had the same result. Or I struggled with that too. That's the point of these videos. To get your clients to resonate or to feel connected to you because there's something that you went through that they went through too.
Yeah. And what's the outcome of that? Once they recognize that.
Or I want the viewer to say, wow, Henry helped that client. That client sounds a lot like me.
Yeah.
If Henry helped that client, I'm pretty sure he can help me. Yeah. That's your content strategy.
There you go. And you get me. I think that's what comes down to. Is Henry gets me. You know what? I want to work with him.
Let's have a conversation. Yeah. Let's move the ball forward. Let's, go to the next round, the next step of the process, etc. That's what we need to focus on when we're creating content for our clients, is to keep them always top of mind. And if you could tell more stories, and I'm always challenging Oase on this, is to have a story journal, have a story archive. Where I was on a conversation with a colleague on Friday, and we were talking about John Wooden and the story about how he was such a tremendous coach in the NFL, and how he always stuck with the fundamentals, like how to tie your shoes properly. And if you didn't know how to tie your shoes properly, that's what was going to destroy the team's chances of winning a Super Bowl. What? Well, here's what happens. If you don't tie your shoes properly, you hurt yourself. If you hurt yourself, you can't contribute to the team. Now the team has to pick up that slack. That's not a Super Bowl team.
You've displaced the entire team.
Exactly. So I just write down John Wooden, NFL. When he was telling that story, I was like, holy crap, John, I gotta do a whole podcast on this. Right? He talked about how everything looks like a nail to a hammer. So I wrote that down, nail to a hammer. Because if you're not getting the proper outside perspective, everything's going to look the same. There's always going to be a sort of question in your mind, right? That's like when you don't have a coach, when you don't have somebody to. We had an awesome session on Friday, because I just remember that one moment where you were like, ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
I got it. That was that, right? And I was like, man, this is such a coachable moment. I want to showcase this so bad because you could see it in your eyes and in your voice and everything. It was just like, the fireworks went off because you that level of clarity hit, right? That's what you want your content to do. And instead of you trying to figure out, oh, what should I be posting? What should I be doing? Just let your clients tell you by the questions that they ask, the problems that they're going through, and speak to that. Give it your own perspective. Guarantee you're going to see those Stripe notifications and you're going to see that bank account increase if you just do that alone. No matter what channel, no matter what format, right? Do what makes it easy for you. You like to write? Get on Medium, right? Get on Reddit. Get on Quora. You like video? You know where to go. You like audio? You know where to go. Podcasts, YouTube. It's not that hard, guys. Stick to the fundamentals and you'll win every time. You'll win every time. We went way over today always, but it was worth every minute.
Absolutely.
We're going to be back on Wednesday. Don't know what the piece of content is going to be just yet. I'm going to Steve Sims' event tomorrow, so I'm sure there's going to be a hell of a lot of content ideas I could pull for Friday.
Exciting, man. Wednesday, yeah.
I'll keep you guys posted. Appreciate all you. Chris Ross, great seeing you again, my friend. Look forward to having you join more of these live streams with us. What's your biggest takeaway, guys? Put it in the comments. Let me know. I want to know what your biggest takeaway from this video was, and share that with us because I'm genuinely curious. And I also need more content ideas for later. Guys, have an amazing rest of the week. And if you haven't booked a brand assessment with me one-on-one yet, if you're struggling with content strategy, if you're struggling with brand strategy, if you're struggling with just getting that focus and confidence in making that next move in your business, book an assessment. Let's break it down. Let's get you the results. Let's get you the focus that you need to win. Have an amazing day, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one real soon. Take care.